Hey up everybody, welcome to the Audio Cycling YouTube channel. Today I am going to be previewing the Volta Communitat a la Valenciana. It starts on the 2nd of February and last year it was won by Stefan Kung ahead of, I think it was Enric Mas, but that was largely due to Stefan Kung having a really good time trial. I think if you remember, Enric Mas had some kind of mechanical and yeah, so the start list last year wasn't overly competitive, but this year it looks completely different with lots of big hitters and lots of people already looking in good form. Stage 1 looks kind of difficult to predict actually, just because of it's a very difficult stage. There's lots of climbing, but the final climb, which is the Torralba del Pinar, actually crests with 3.3 kilometers to go, which provides some opportunities for some attackers to go in the last few kilometers. I don't think we'll see attacks on the climb. My expectations is that Movistar will try and keep this all together for a Valverde sprint, considering how good he's been looking recently. But because of how much pressure there will be on Movistar to essentially do that, I think it's going to open up the race a bit more, which could lead to some attacks from, somebody who I think could do well is perhaps like Juan Ayuso, or just like other GC guys like Vlasov, Kelderman, or there could be some punchers in there who might survive, so like Mohoric, Mikel Frolik Honore, who we saw doing well at the Tour of Poland last year, Matteo Trentin and Ryan Gibbons, the pairing for UAE team Emirates, of course, teammates of Juan Ayuso. Then you got Andrea Van Dlam, Marcus Houligaard, who we saw at the World Championships last year, finishing well, and also Dion Smith for Team Bike Exchange. So you've got lots of punchers who could survive a climb. It is 4.6 kilometres at 6.9%, but it looks like it's perhaps a bit steeper towards the end, perhaps 8% for the last few kilometres. So it's difficult to say whether those guys will survive. For me, I'm going to guess that Juan Ayuso is going to win stage 1 with an attack a couple of kilometres to go. It looks like it rises up a little bit at about 2 kilometres to go, so I'm going to go with Juan Ayuso to win, with men like Trentin and Gibbons behind marking the moves and then sprinting for the reduced places. Stage 2 looks pretty simple, like it's going to be a sprint stage. I know there's a couple of category 3 and category 2 climbs, so that's more for the breakaway. 172 kilometres, nice and flat. To keep it simple, probably Fabio Jakobsen will win this stage, just because he has just such an extraordinary lead out. He's got, of course, Morkov, a very good kind of lead into that. So we've got Lampard here, Honore, Czerny. It's just a really strong lead out. Whether Evenepoel might even get involved with the lead out as well, I'm not too sure whether he'll save himself for GC, but if he won't have it all his own way. There's David Dekker here, who we saw at the UAE Tour last year doing really well on his Neo Pro season. He's got Eduardo Affini and Pascal Acorn leading him out, so not quite as strong as De Koenig, but Dekker's definitely not somebody to be underestimated. Giacomo Nizzolo has done a couple of the Mallorca Challenge races. He hasn't won, but he's looked kind of consistent. Milano or Gibbons for UAE will likely be their sprinters. Christoph, actually, for Intermarché, has a good sprint and a good lead out as well. He's got Andrea Pasqualon, Dimitri Claes, Barnabas Payak, Adrien Petit and Loic Vliegen as well. So that's a really dedicated lead out for Intermarché. Whether they might swap Christoph and Pasqualon is yet to be seen. But I think that Jakobsen will probably be the winner of stage 2. Stage 3 is where the GC will be decided, probably once and for all. Very difficult stage. Finishes up, a really difficult climb. Basically 10 kilometres, 7.5%. With even, it says like there's some kind of pave section in there, whether it is actually that or like gravel, some kind of like goat tracks or something like that. But it's a really difficult climb, but you're going to have a lot of riders trying to win this. So, of course, you've got Movistar, Enric Mas and Valverde, who've both been doing the Mallorca Challenges, so we actually have some indication of form there. Vlasov looked alright in one of those races. He was finished third behind Valverde. You've also got Ineos, who have Pavel Sivakov, Teo Gegenhardt and Carlos Rodriguez, the youngster. Carlos Rodriguez is an interesting one because we haven't really seen him lead a team, but he'll probably get like some kind of joint leadership, I hope. Giulio Ciccone, but he is going to the Tour de la Provence pretty much immediately after this race, so whether he'll be competitive or whether he's just planning on building form, I'm not too sure. Juan Ayuso, how will he go? We haven't really seen him compete with the big dogs in like such an uphill finish as this. We've seen him do under 23 races and just dominating that. So can he step up and do that here? Of course, Marc Soler is also there for UE, but I kind of fancy Juan Ayuso over Soler. And then you've got Bahrain Victorious, who come here with 3 riders. Got Peo Bilbao, Jack Haig, and Dylan Teuns. Dylan Teuns, of course, did well at the Ruta del Sol 2 years ago. I think he won with TT and finished in like 5th place on GC, so he's can do some good performances early on in the season. I think I remember him doing well in Omloop a couple of years ago. Jack Haig finished 2nd in this very race 2 years ago in 2020, so definitely not a rider to be overlooked. But of course we haven't seen him racing yet, so we're not quite too sure about how he's doing. I think for safety, I'm going to say that Valverde is going to win this stage just because we've seen what his form is like, and he looks like he's, you know, still performing at a very high level, and I think that that's probably the safest option for the win. Stages 4 and 5, a little bit disappointingly, are just going to be some pretty easy sprint stages. There's no kind of TT or anything in here, which is a little bit disappointing, but for sprint stages, again, just I won't waste your time. Probably I'll go with Jakobsen again for stage 4. Just because of how dominant that lead out is. I think that, you know, anybody who sits on the wheel of Morkov just seems to win the sprints, and that just seems to be a matter of fact by now. The last stage is a little bit shorter, 91.5 kilometres, so not a very long stage. Whether that will have any implication on, you know, how sprinters might be performing. Maybe some sprinters prefer a long day, some prefer a short day, I'm not overly sure. But I don't think, for the sake of variety, I won't say that Jakobsen will win stage 5. I'll say that Dekker will win stage 5 after kind of coming close a couple of times, and he'll finally kind of get used to the whole, you know, leading out scenario, and perhaps taking advantage of Dekker taking up the mantle of being the sprinter team to beat. So with all that in mind, I'll now try and give you my prediction for the GC podium, which will of course be likely decided through a combination of stage 1 and stage 3, but largely stage 3. For me, I think that Alejandro Valverde will win the Volta Communitat a la Valenciana, probably by about 30 seconds or so ahead of, I think Alexander Vlasov will finish in 2nd place, and then I think that I'll go with Jack Haig for 3rd place because he finished 2nd in this race a couple of years ago. I know that I haven't included Evenepoel in that 3rd place, but I'm just not too sure on what his priorities and how he's going at the moment, whereas I know that Haig has done well in early season races, so that's my thought process behind that podium positioning. Let me know if you agree with that, or if you think there's a different podium. Have there been any riders I've missed out on any of the stages that you think deserve some attention? Put all those in the comments below. I do always read them. Yeah, so all that's left to say is to keep safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Salut!